My OP is on number 5 of the common app topics given. Discuss an accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. And it's called Road to Adulthood. Everyone goes through childhood to become an adult. Some go through a difficult one and others go through a prosperous childhood. However, everyone seems to have a point in their childhood where he or she matures and starts to walk the road of adulthood. Unfortunately, my route to adulthood showed up in my life relatively early. Before I immigrated to the United States, I was born and raised in South Korea. For the most part of my life, until the age of 10, I was raised by my grandma from my mom's side of family, and without a grandfather whom I never really got a chance to meet, my family lived with my grandmother. My transition to adulthood came when my grandmother unfortunately passed away. My grandmother's death had a huge impact on me and my 2 years younger sister. This was because our grandmother was the one who took care of us. My parents were extremely busy workers. My mom was a nurse at a major hospital in the capital city, Seoul, and my dad was an optician that owned a pretty big store in one of the major streets in Seoul called Myeongdong. My mother had no choice but to work during the night shift, and so I only got to see her during dinner and in the morning as she was sleeping. My father had to wake up early to go to work and even came back late around 12 a.m. This was because Myeongdong was and still is one of the major streets in Seoul, and that was often bombarded with tourists and young adults disregarding the time of the day. Ever since my grandmother passed away, my sister and I were sent to after-school programs. Until my sister and I were dropped off at home by the after-school program, I was fully responsible to take care of her. Dinner time was the only time where we got to enjoy the presence of an adult. It was my mother who would eat dinner with us and hurry off to work. For a whole entire night, my sister and I were home alone until my father came back from work around midnight. I remember I always craved my mother to stay and not leave us because as a 10-year-old boy, it was way too much for me to take care of my sister. I had to help my sister with brushing her teeth, getting ready for her bed, and doing her homework. I truly longed for my grandmother's presence, and when my sister would burst in tears out of nowhere at night, especially when she was tired and sleepy, she would always have the tendency to start crying for her grandma and mother. Every time this happened, I had to take care of her, calm her down, and stay next to her until she fell asleep. Until 11 years old, when I immigrated to America, I really felt the burden that my grandmother was carrying the whole entire time. I felt sorry for her that she was holding so many responsibilities within her. This time of my life allowed me to really evolve in my life because of the pressure that there would be no one to take care of my little sister if I wasn't there. Also, it truly got me to respect my grandmother more and regretting that I could not help her much when she was still alive.